Hello and welcome to VIPER Strategies, where we put roulette strategies to the ultimate test. This is not a simulator app. We are using a custom-built software to back test strategies against real casino spin data. That means real outcomes, real risk analysis, and real-world results. This is more than just content. It's a passion project. After years of getting beat up from the casinos, we decided it was time to fight and strike back. So on this channel, we fine-tune strategies, run deep performance analysis, and stress test across multiple sessions against thousands of spins to see if they really have true profit potential. Because around here, we always test before we invest. Hey guys, welcome back to another testing video. In today's video, we're going to redefine what bankroll is actually suitable for the system that we're testing. Okay, so we're going to test multiple sessions. Reason being is we're trying to find so I just got a comment on one of my recent videos and it made complete sense. So we want to track the max loss over multiple sessions with different data sets, and we want to average that out, right? So if the strategy is good, it should win more times than not, right? So the idea is to find that max loss, calculate it over multiple sessions, and then get the average. Then after that, we're going to go ahead and calculate. We're going to talk about bankroll and bankroll management. So stick around to the end and it'll all make sense once I crunch all these numbers. I do also want to bring up the Viper Nest Inner Circle is closing soon, Monday the 16th. We're going to close it. And so if you're still interested, the details will be in the description. So let's go ahead and jump into today's video and I'll explain as I go. Okay, so we're going to run a handful of tests. I'm going to shoot for 10 different data sets to run on this system. We're going to use VIPER 722 custom. Let me just pull up the configuration so you guys can see. So jackpot dozen selection. So we're going to have a jackpot dozen. You'll see as I pull up the bet visualization, and we're going to put that to auto. We could do it manually, but software does it for us. Let's go ahead and click that to auto, and then manual jackpot dozen. We're not playing that, we're playing auto. So auto jackpot method. Okay, this is an option of hot, cold, previous, current. I like, you guys know me already. I like to play streaks. I like to play hot numbers. Let's see, and hot sectors. So let's see how that plays out today. Auto jackpot method, hot. The hedge. Okay, we're gonna have a hedge dozen, which means that we're gonna have 2 dozen bet. We're going to have a jackpot dozen, and then this one will be the hedge bet. So we're going to keep that as well. We're going to keep that on auto. Let's see, hedge dozen selection is going to be auto. We're not doing manual. Again, the hedge is going to run on hot. And misses to sleep. So after we get 3 misses, it's going to sleep until the board basically starts to regulate again in our favor. So let's go ahead and save these parameters. All right, right here I do want to highlight. So this is a fairly aggressive strategy. So I drop this down. This is the override. I'm gonna drop this to 50 cents. And ideally, there are some places you can play with 10-cent pieces. I would probably recommend using, if that's possible, to play it that way. But I'm gonna just keep it at 50 cents and let's see what happens today. So let's go ahead and start the strategy. I'm going to slow it down. That way you guys can kind of visually see what's going on. So I'm going to slow it down initially. And let's go ahead and start now. And I have it set at 3 seconds to give information. So you can see this is going to be the jackpot. Let me highlight it. This is going to be the jackpot dozen. This is going to be the hedge dozen. And of course, there's going to be 1 uncovered dozen. If that hits, that's a total loss. Okay, so we're dipping kind of low. We hit minus 112. Let me go ahead and speed this up to 1 second to give me data. And then again, I'm going to run this in mini sessions. Okay, I'm going to run this against 10 different sessions, 10 different data sets. And then at the end, we're going to crunch the numbers. We're going to really keep an eye on where our highs are, but also our lows. Those lows are what's going to tell us what bankroll's most suitable for playing this strategy, if that makes sense. I'll go over more in detail at the end of the video once we crunch all the numbers. So I'm going to give it 90 spins, very similar to the survival test. That way it replicates kind of like, your average play when you sit down at the casino. It's about an hour to an hour and a half of play. So we are at spin 70. We're almost done wrapping this video up, or this first test. We're on a losing streak, and you see it sat out. It's waiting for it to regulate. We're at spin 84, almost done. And finished. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop it here. I'll show you the stats real quick. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to pause it right here, collect this, put it in the doc, the Google Doc, and then I'll be back with the second one. Okay, so we are in test number 2. We got a new data set. Configurations are all set up. I'm not sure if I showed on the last one. I don't know if I showed this, but because this is such an aggressive system, instead of resetting at session high, I think to create a better cushion, I'm going to reset near $100 in profit. Okay. That first one did perform well, but it's not about one performance. We're not building a bankroll off of one performance. We need to accumulate quite a bit of information to help us figure out what number is most appropriate. Okay. So that first one did perform well. It gained over 2,000. It was $2,099 in profit, and it only used $113 of bankroll. And for these tests, I'm just set it to a generic $1,000 bankroll. So if it busts, that's how much you lose. Okay. But this is more to figure out what those average lows are. So let's go ahead and start this second test. Let me pull up the bet visualization, and we start. Okay, so yeah, first one performed well, but like I said, it's not about just a one and done. We want to see the good, we want to see the bad, we want to see the ugly. We're doing these tests to really redefine what bankroll means. Okay, because nobody wants to. If you have $2,000, nobody really wants to go into the casino, right, and then just give away $2,000 if it doesn't work, because then you're chasing losses. Then you can't go back. That's going to take multiple sessions for you to gain that money back. So that's what I want to cover towards the end of the video. It'll make more sense once I crunch the numbers and show you visually what I'm talking about. But I mean, just to give you kind of like a quick analogy, it would be like, if it hits 80% of the time, and your average loss is 200, right? And then your average gain is 200. Well, those two losses, you're only down for $400 versus the 8 wins, you're up $1,600. You minus that $400, you're in a net gain of, what is that? $1,200 over 10 sessions. That's just basic math. Just lay it out, make it simple for you. But we are almost done with this test. Let's go ahead and stop right here. We hit the 90 spin mark, and let's see what's going on here. So not as much profit. You can see the session low right here. Didn't dip too low on that one, and profits. That's where we ended. I'm calculating the highs, which we peaked out at 800, and the low, we went down a little bit. But I'm gonna stop right here and log all this data, and I'll be back for test number 3. Okay, guys, we are back with test number 3. Same configuration, new data set, and let's go ahead and jump into it and see how this one performs. Okay, so I'm going to start here, and you can see the bets. So the second test, not as high of a profit, but also didn't use as much of the bankroll. So again, 90 spins. We're going to do 10 tests today. We're going to get the average and then see how it all pans out at the end. I'm going to crunch the numbers and go over all that detail later. But yeah, let me know. So this is a custom strategy. So the auto selection, the way it chooses, I can't get into the meat and taters and the details about that. This is one of the private systems, but right now we are low. We actually went the lowest so far. This is test number 3. The lowest so far is minus 500 and something. We did come back, but we are this test doesn't look as good as the first 2, but that's why we test. We test before we invest. Today's all about figuring out what the proper bankroll is. So we're at spin 70. We're almost done with our 3rd test, and it did come into a pretty high profit. We've peaked out at 651 so far. We have about 10 more spins to go, and then we'll stop this. But I did notice this one dipped pretty low. Okay, that's spin number 90. Let's go ahead and stop here and see what's going on. So stop this. Okay, so you can see right here, session low. It did dip the lowest so far. This is test number 3. Again, we are collecting all the data from 10 different sessions to get the average. Okay, so I'm going to pause here again, collect the data. I'll be back for test number 4. Okay, guys, we are back with test number 4. Same configurations as usual. Only thing that is changed is the data set. So let's see how this one does. Let's go ahead and activate this, minimize this screen, pull up the bet visualization, and we start. So review over the last one. We did peak out at a high, a session high of $878, and we did dip in the lowest into our bankroll at $527. This one I'm looking right now, it's not doing so hot. It's staying in the negative so far. Minus 452 is the lowest. All right, that's why we test, and it looks like it didn't have enough to continue. So we're gonna stop right here, and we're gonna log this information. So this is test 4. This one's a bust. Okay, so let me just pause right here, collect the data, and I'll be back with test number 5. All right, guys, we are test number 5. So obviously the last one bust. That was the first bust so far. So let's go ahead and enable this, activate that. Let's minimize this screen and let's see how this one runs. So new data set, everything else is the same. Start it and see what's going on. Okay, cool. So test 5, started hot. Second test, good results. Third, dipped a little low but ended in profit. And the fourth test busted. So let's see how this one performs. Looking at the stats right now, we are in session high, and we are approaching spin number 30. So let's see how this one works out. And again, that's why it's important, testing over multiple sessions. That way you get an idea like how often is this expected to win money? How often does this lose money? That's the important stuff to figure out. That way this kind of reinforces either confidence or, maybe it's just not a good one to use in the casino, so that's what I like to test is you get all these numbers, crunch them down, and then it gives you a better perspective. So we are at spin 70. We are up in session profit. Again, this system right here is definitely not for the faint of heart. This is for the more aggressive players. But you can see it can make a lot of money really quick, but it could also lose a lot of money quick too. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, so I paused at one passed. It actually gave it 92 spins, but let's go ahead and see the highs, see the lows, and then we'll go from there. Okay, I'm gonna stop right here, log this information, and I will be back for test number 6. Okay, we are at, what are we? Oh, test number 6. This is test number 6. Activate this. Everything else is the same except for the data set. So let's see how this one runs. Minimize this and start test. Okay. Oh, let me fix this. I don't know why this one was activated. I'm gonna have to stop it real quick. Looks like Street Slayer was activated as well by accident. Hold on, let me go ahead and reset everything. Clear that, stop session. Sorry about that, guys. I must have accidentally clicked that. So let me start a new session here. Okay. Generic $1,000 bankroll. Base units 50 cents. Skip on that. And let me see active. Okay, I don't know where that is. What was that? Street Slayer? It says disabled now. I must have fat fingered it or fat clicked it in this case. But let's go back to we were on dozens. We were 722. Let's go ahead and activate that and minimize this and start this test. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened right there. So we are on test number 6, and the last run was test 5, and it looks like our session high on that test was $952, and we used $432 of our bankroll. So keeping track of the session high and the session low. Again, at the end of the video, we're going to crunch the numbers and figure out the bankroll. I'll explain more, like in more detail, like how I'm going to figure that out. So we are about at the halfway point. It's kind of teetering up and down at this point. And you could see there are some big bets. But like I said, this system is not for the faint of heart. All right, we're at spin 60. So far, so good. Kind of going up and down. Right now in the negative. How is it going to end? We will find out. Spin number 70. All right, so this one busted just before. This busted at 74. So I'm going to stop right here, log this information, and I'll be back for test number 7. Okay, so we are back with test number 7. So let's go ahead and activate this and start the test. And we start. Okay, so reviewing the last test was 6, and that was a bust. So reviewing so far, we have ran. Well, we're on our 7th, so we have 2 busts. And then we got 4 of them that have passed so far. So let's see how this one pans out. Right now, we are at spin 25. This one is up in profit pretty good so far. And again, that's why we run these tests. Now, again, this is real casino data sets that we're running. This is not just random numbers. All right, so session high so far is 766 and 50 cents. And now it's on a bad losing streak. Let's see if it comes back. We are pushing spin 60 at this point. I don't think this one's really gone into the negative so far, so this one's panning out fairly well. We have about 20 more spins. And as I say that, all those zeros, look up there, all those zeros started coming out. Bunch of bad numbers. But that's why we test these, okay? Always test before we invest. We are at spin 85. We are about to wrap up this one. And we stop right here. Okay, let's go ahead and collect this. I'm gonna go ahead and collect this data right now, stop the video, and I'll be back for, what are we on, test number 8. Okay, so we are back, and this is gonna be test number 8. We got a couple more after this, and we could start crunching the numbers and getting the averages for all of these tests. So let's go ahead and activate that and start this. So this is test number 8. Quick review from the previous test. It looks like we got a session high on that was $814, and we only used $76 into our bankroll. So that one worked out fairly well. So right now, as of now, we have 5 that are all successful, and then we have 2 that weren't. 2 of them at bust. But again, we're going to calculate all this. We'll get the averages from all of these tests, and then that's going to kind of show us what we should be, where our bankroll should be. And also, is this a system that we're going to feel confident using? Is it something that maybe needs some more modifications? That's why we test. We're going to figure all this at the towards the end. So we are test 8. So we are teetering up and down. We're in the negative right now. We did peak out at 437. We are at spin 72. Let's see where this one ends. All right, so now it's floating in the negative, not so hot. Got about 10 more spins to go. Can it come back? Will it come back? That's why we test. Okay, let's stop it right here. And again, I'm going to go ahead and collect this. Now, this one did not bust. It did peak out at 437. I'm going to pause the video here, collect the data. I'll be back for test number 9. We're in test number 9, so let's go ahead and activate this, minimize this, start the test. And reviewing the last one, so we did peak out at a high of $437. It did go pretty deep into the bankroll, and again, generic bankroll set at $1,000. It went down and used $625. And again, this is 90 spins for each of these tests. That 90 spin mark is really just to replicate an average session. Nobody's going to really stop at that 90 spin mark code. So technically, that could, I mean, if you checked out while you're up in profit versus while you're down in profit, okay? So if you checked out when you're up in profit, obviously that's going to be a win. So that's why I'm tracking the highs. That's why I'm also tracking the lows. We're going to crunch the numbers at the end with the lows, figure out what's a proper bankroll for this system. All right, so that was that one ran 90 spins just like the rest. We are on our 9th test. We are in a session high right now. We are at 70 spins. We got about 15 more now at 75 spins. And let's see how this one ends up. So high on this one so far is 603. It's going on a pretty hard losing streak right now. All right, let's stop right here. So it did end in it ended minus 180, but we did peak out at 160. Let's see how much bankroll was used. So lowest was 819. So we use what's that, about $180. So let me stop right here and log this data, and I'll be back for test number 10. Okay, we are in test number 10, final test to this video. So let's go ahead and let me finish putting this in. Base units 50 cents. Skip. All right, make sure it's activated. VIPER 22, minimize and start. All right, so this is test number 10. Let's see how this one pans out. The last one did fairly well. We peaked at, what is it, $603 was a session high, and we used $180 of bankroll. And again, 90 spins, and this is our last test. Let's see how this one finishes out, and we will crunch the numbers and review the averages at the end. Then we'll talk about bankroll. So we are at spin 35. Current high is 169. Looks like this one's teetering up and down quite a bit. We're at the halfway mark right now. And this one looks like it busted. Okay, we're gonna stop it right here. And let me go ahead and pause the video right here, and then I'll be back, and we're gonna crunch the final numbers, and then we're gonna compare and contrast all what happened in these 10 tests. Okay, guys, so all the numbers have been collected, and I did crunch the numbers. So let me go ahead and take some time to explain this. So today's test was not so much about this specific strategy, because this could be implemented on whatever strategy you use. This was mostly to highlight the bankroll and the bankroll management. And let me go ahead and explain that part. Okay, so you could see right here, I'm gonna go ahead and highlight it. We got our test runs. We ran 10 different data sets against the same system, against the same configurations. Now I used the generic bankroll of $1,000, okay, and base unit was 50 cents. Okay, with that covered, you could see we have this was our high, and right here, this was our low. This session ended up busting, and it never gained profit, which means that it was just in the negative the whole time. So throughout all 10 tests, we got 1, 2, and 3 bust. Okay, that means that system couldn't progress anymore, so the betting stopped, and I collected all those numbers. So overall, through 10 tests, I know it's still fairly a smaller sample size, our win rate was 70%. So that is a winning win rate. That's more than 50%, right? Well, I went ahead and I'm really focusing on the session highs and the session lows. They all got their 90 spins right here, okay? All 90 spins. So the session high average was $727.60 right here. Our session low average was a total of $444 or minus $444. That's how much on average bankroll that we used throughout the 10 sessions. These are busts included, and I went ahead and calculated busts excluded, and I'm going to explain that right here. So if you go down here and look at this line right here, total sessions. Okay, so these are all the total sessions, how much profit gained. Okay, so this is just replicating like real life scenario. Let's say hypothetically you did play 10 different sessions, and you peaked and you checked out at the highs. Okay, 7,276 is the net profit. Okay, so with the bust included, right, here's your total loss over those sessions. So what I did is find the difference. So the discrepancy between the two, you ended up with still a net gain of $2,836 right here. That's indicative of the win rate, because this did win more times than it did lose. Okay, so the idea is, okay, let's find the happy medium for the bankroll. I use the generic bankroll for $1,000. Okay. Well, if I adjust that to, so like you could see right here, this one right here ended up good, but it went and used $527 of bankroll. This one used $625 of bankroll. So I went ahead and said, okay, let's make a modest adjustment. So bankroll would be right here. I said, let's go ahead and readjust that bankroll from 1,000. And if we're going to play this system over 10 sessions, let's modify it and adjust it to $650. So then these busts right here, they won't be this high. That would be our stopping point, $650. So then I adjusted for that, calculated the average from with those busts included. So this bust would, instead of being 871, it'd have been 650. This one's 650, and then this one's 650. So if you count for it that way, profit's still going to be the same over the same sessions. What's going to be different is now this is your stopping point, $650. So your loss is actually less. Your loss is $3,961. So that bumps you up to a higher net profit of $3,315. Does that make sense? I'm hoping I explained that correctly. I did use an analogy earlier too. So I used the analogy, so $200, like let's say win rate, let's say the win rate is 80%. Okay. That means 8 out of 10 win. Let's keep the numbers very simple. And then let's say we average 200. Our average is going to be 200. Oh, sorry, let me fix this. $200 a session. That's how much we're winning. Okay. So over 8 sessions, 2 times 8, that's $1,600. Okay. So what happens is, our average loss rate, our max loss rate, the average is, call it $200. Okay, so that means if we lose 2, which 80%, we win 8 out of 10, so there's going to be 2 losses. That means those losses are going to accumulate for $400. So then to get your net gain over those 10 sessions, you're going to subtract that 400 from the 600, and your net gain will be $1,200. Does that make sense? So that's really what I wanted to highlight about this video. And this is part of like the, once the inner circle members get onboarded, which is right around the corner, then these are the type of tests we're going to be doing to really find the best performing strategies, the ones that have the highest win rate, where it makes sense. Because like the reason why you would want to adjust your bankroll lower is because, for instance, with this example, if you went in there on this strategy, this is said strategy, this could be just any strategy, and let's say the bankroll is $2,000, and then you trust it all the way to the end, and you're minus 2,000, minus 2,000. Okay, well, if you're averaging only $200 in profit, how many sessions is that going to take for you to make up? That's going to take you 10 sessions just to get back to break even. And that's if you win 10 in a row. So do you see the power of like bankroll management? Said now, instead of that $2,000 that I just threw down the hole, instead I stopped at $200. All right, $200. I lost that night. Maybe the next night I lost another $200, and then third night I win $200. So now I'm let's say plus 200, and I hit plus 200 2 nights in a row. Well, now I'm back to even after 2 good sessions versus trying to hit 10 sessions. So do you see how I'm trying to paint the picture? Let me know if you guys have any questions about this. I'll elaborate more if I didn't explain it right. I'm just trying to use easy numbers to explain this, because I think this is something that's very, very important that most people don't discuss. Everyone likes to discuss all their wins, all their big jackpots, but nobody discuss losses. Nobody, well, I wouldn't say nobody, but there's a lot of people that don't talk about bankroll management. And this is what we're also going to give away to our Inner Circle members is a PDF guide, and I'm actually going to make a deeper dive into money management and how to build that bankroll over time the smart way. We're not going and hitting huge profits. We have a bankroll. Let's call it. Let's say you start with $1,000. We're simply going to try to make lower profit gains through a long period of time versus shooting for higher ROIs. I know those systems tend to look a lot better because everyone wants to go in, don't want to waste time in the casino. They want to go in there, make $500, $1,000 and leave. Well, how often does that happen? Versus how often does it happen, say if you go in there with $1,000 bankroll, but you're only shooting for a 3 to 5% ROI, which would mean off $1,000, that's $30 to $50. If you're shooting for low margins like that, how often do you think you're going to win versus lose? And then if you have that stop loss, like I talked about, adjusting these bankrolls, you could even adjust it, even if it doesn't make sense for that system, adjust it down to $100. I've played a lot of strategies where they do go up, but the thing is, that greed kicks in. You're like, oh, I'm not happy with 50. Next profit 100. Oh, and then you get on a bad losing streak, and now you're down 100. And then from there, you start chasing unicorns. From there, you start chasing losses, and the casino already has you because now you're chasing just to get back to even. You just like, okay, it's getting rough. I just want to get my money back, and I'll just call it a night. Well, a lot of times that don't happen, guys. So this is something I really did want to highlight. I hope it helps you guys. If you guys have any feedback or any comments and any suggestions, I could do this again with another strategy. Again, it wasn't necessarily the strategy that we're testing today, but it was to show where we could adjust these bankrolls, because most bankrolls, like I said before, they're based off calculations from bets to unit size to progressions. Okay, so some of them have hefty bankrolls, but I think that's not a good analysis of where that bankroll should be. A great way to analyze where your bankroll should be is to run tests like this. 10, I did a 10 small. I think 20 to 30 would be a better number, so we see more variances and get a better average, and then it'll give you a better idea where a proper bankroll should be established for a given system. You know what I mean? So, like always, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you guys have any suggestions or feedback, please let me know. And of course, till next time, be cool, stay cool, peace.